Welcome to First Date, a panel talk show on the Reader Seeks Romance channel that celebrates debut romance authors with recent and upcoming releases. I am your matchmaking host, Liz Donatelli. It is a thrill for me to introduce 4 new romance authors who will set your hearts aflutter with their spring 2023 debut romances. CAMILLE KELLOGG, author of rom-com Just As You Are, which released on April 25th. MICCICHE, author of rom-com The Book Proposal, releasing on May 16th. TATI Richardson, Romance in Color podcast co-host and author of contemporary romance The Build-Up, which released on March 28th. SHEPARD, author of rom-com Bear With Me Now, which released on April 25th. Welcome, authors, and congratulations on your debut romance releases.
Thank you for having me on.
Let's begin, like all first dates begin, with an icebreaker. Tell me something about yourselves that others would be surprised to learn. KJ, being you're from New York, like me, I feel like you should be the first to answer. Is anyone else from New York by any? No, I don't think so.
I'm not from there, but I live here.
Where are you from originally?
Washington, D.C.
I'm sorry, but I think Queens. You're from Queens or Brooklyn?
Me? I'm from Queens. I'm from Queens originally. I don't live in Queens anymore. I live in Long Island, which is like a Queens sellout. But yes,
Long Island. Okay, just because of that, I'm gonna have to go with.
Now I'm last. I understand it. I respect that choice.
I'm sorry. When I was okay when it was Queens, Long Island. Like, I'm sorry. You're gonna be second now, KJ. I have to do that. Camille.
All right. Something that most people probably don't know about me is I used to train show cows. I went to a farm summer camp and I would work with 2,000-pound cows to make sure they were ready to show in county fairs.
I would not have guessed in a million years that would have been mentioned at all during this recording. Show cows. I've heard of show horses. I've heard of like show pigs, or at least, them getting ribbons for stuff, but not cows.
They do all the farm animals. You take them to a county fair and you show them off and they give you a ribbon for the best cow, but they need to be trained to walk around in a circle, be led on a halter, to stand still when the judge is looking, to pose their legs a certain way. Cows are surprisingly smart.
I feel like I should just end this segment and just move on, because can anyone blow my mind? I should have asked KJ to go first, right? Because now you're going to go second. I'm sorry. Okay. KJ.
Yeah, I don't know anything about cows. And so I'm sorry now for what I'm going to bring to you, which is that the interesting fact about me is that I spent 2 years learning how to pole dance. I feel like that's pretty on brand for New York.
I think so. Pole dancing. Now, have you gotten to a level where you think that you might eventually teach? How far are you on your pole dancing journey?
So no, I don't anticipate teaching. Pole dancing is a young person's game, and I am not a young person. So it's funny what I learned, and I can share this with all of you. Yeah. In pole dancing competition, if you are my age, you would participate at what is called the grandmaster level. And that's grandmaster as in grandmother. So you get a participation trophy for remembering the day of the competition. So I'm at that level where me and, grandma could go pole dancing together. Wow. I don't anticipate ever teaching anyone how to pole dance, but it's a lot of fun and it's a fabulous workout, and it's very body positive and all of the good things.
Yeah.
That romance people like. So that's
right. Wow. So we've got show cows, we have pole dancing. There's a lot of performance.
In line with the pole dancing, I feel like my little known fact about me, people didn't know this before I was a romance podcaster and romance writer. I had a sex positive blog for 10 years. So I reviewed sex toys, I reviewed movies, I gave people advice, I interviewed people in different sexual lifestyles, BDSM, blah, blah, blah. And I did that for about 10 years and it was a lot of fun.
It makes sense when you say that would have been where you began your journey. But I'm still, it's still surprising to hear. It's like, oh.
That is a tough act to follow.
What do you have for us, Katie?
Well, the one of many careers that I considered and did not ultimately pursue while I was in college was becoming a spy and working for the NSA or CIA. So I spent a summer at a government-funded language center learning Tajik, which I remember very little of today, but I could speak Tajik quite well at the end of that summer. Did not ultimately end up becoming a spy.
There's so much to unpack with that answer. First off, that language that you stated that I don't think I could repeat without butchering it, I've not heard of before. So what?
It is the national language of Tajikistan, which is a country in Central Asia. It is also spoken by a significant minority in Uzbekistan.
Wow. I'm blown away. You're already starting out here. Okay. Let's just keep it going up. Let me set the scene. You have just scored a meeting with book club tastemakers, Oprah, Jenna Bush Hager, and Reese Witherspoon. They are giving you 2 minutes to pitch your debut romance to them. Go.
First of all, thank you so much for having me in this illustrious room of fine, lovely ladies. I'm so grateful to be here. This is amazing. My debut novel is called The Book Proposal. It is the story of Gracie Landing, who is a down on her luck romance author who, in the wake of one too many, decides to email her old unrequited high school crush, Colin Yarmouth, because her life is in shambles and why not just make it worse? So he ends up becoming an unlikely friend, and together they work through her writer's block that she is suffering from because of her inability to find a happily ever after, and chaos ensues.
So first off, Oprah, I love you. Second, my book for your book club is Bear With Me Now. It is a rom-com where I would describe it as a meet cute at a bear attack. You know, our hero, Tegan, has just had a mental breakdown and has been hauled off to a wilderness therapy camp by his younger sister. Unbeknownst to him, the wilderness therapy camp mostly serves people who are suffering from substance abuse. So while he is attempting to flee for the substance abuse treatment that he doesn't actually need, he is attacked by a bear, only to be saved by Darcy Albino, who would like to be a forest ranger but has ended up as a handyman instead. Darcy is very worried that this attack may have negative repercussions for the bear, but nonetheless takes Tegan under her wing and assumes that he is one of the many people who need help with their substance abuse problems at this wilderness therapy camp. Tegan, enjoys the attention of the most beautiful human being he's ever seen, and when the time comes for him to return to New York, he hires Darcy as a sober companion, which is really the one type of help that he doesn't need, and brings her back with him to New York.
Have you ever experienced a bear attack firsthand?
No, I am up in Montana, but I am very conscious of bear safety. As Darcy explains to Tegan, you just have to take certain precautions when you're out in the woods in Montana. Bring your bear spray, bring a friend, make noise, don't wander into the berry bushes in August.
Now, when you say bring a friend, is that so you could throw the friend as use the friend as a human shield against the bear?
Well, are they faster than you or slower? Because if they're faster, you're going to have to take some dramatic action. But if they're slower, you could just, book it out of there.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Hi, ladies. Do not let this little mass market paperback fool you. It is a story with a lot of heart and a lot of super awesome and very heavy topics in it, but done with a lot of humor and a lot of I think my blur is messing up. A lot of really, really cool characters in here. So the story follows Ari and Porter, who are architects, and Ari is a 40-year-old plus size architect who is trying to rebuild her career after a devastating blow to it in a previous job. And she comes back home to Atlanta, gets a job opportunity to help build a soccer stadium. And she says, I'm just going to focus on work, focus on work, focus on work. That's all I'm going to focus on, until she meets Porter on a very first day of work, which was disastrous. But he also is trying to focus on work and focus on a partnership. But once he sees Ari, he is head over heels, and he cannot concentrate on anything but her. But they get the job done in the end, but there's a lot of things going on to get them to their HEA. So if you love happy endings, if you love 90s R&B and the golden age of rom-coms, which is like the 1990s, the early 2000s, particularly rom-coms that have like Queen Latifah in them, then this is the book for you. Also, this will make a great movie. So if you're like if you want the movie rights, let's do something. You know what I'm saying? Let's do something with this.
Just As You Are, which I also have behind me on the wall, is a contemporary retelling of Pride and Prejudice about Liz Baker and her 3 roommates, all of whom work at the same failing queer magazine that is on the verge of being shut down, until it's bought at the last minute by 2 wealthy lesbians named Bailey and Daria. Liz immediately gets off on the wrong foot with Daria, who comes in and starts making a lot of changes to the magazine. But as they're forced to spend more time together, they start to realize that they have more in common than they thought. It's a queer rom-com, but it's also very much about queer identity, queer community, and celebrating queer culture as well.
I love it! I love it! I love it! I love it! Let's read the first lines of your novels. Katie, why don't you go first? If you could please read the first line of your novel.
Sloan, is this a resort? Tegan asked his sister as soon as his confusion grew strong enough to overcome the inertia of his medication.
There's so much from just that opening statement. Now, how long did it take you to come up with the opening line?
Well, I played a little bit with the opening scene about whether we were going to sort of open on this beautiful resort in Montana or upon his discharge from Gracie Square in Manhattan. And eventually some of my friends said, Shep, this is a rom-com. I understand this is a rom-com about mental illness, but you cannot actually open your rom-com in inpatient psychiatric treatment. And I was like, you have a point there. Let's open it in the beautiful Montana wilderness where he falls in love.
Yeah, I think that's a stronger opening. Yeah, for sure.
I have a prologue, so I don't know if it's fair for me to start with the first line of that, or if I can just jump into the first line of chapter 1. They equally suck. So I mean,
whoa. Why don't you do the first in the chapter? The first chapter, okay. First line, first chapter. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. So it says, "Hey, Colin, long time no speak." Fabulous, right? Who wants to buy this book?
Hey, listen, I mean, the second line, I'm sure it picks up. Some first lines are very short. I know I take a chance by asking people to read their first lines because there are some first lines that are, pretty simple, or, nothing bold is happening in the first line. So, but that's fine, because you know what? I still want to read more. I still want to know what's going on. Maybe I should have you read the second line too. But you do live in Long Island, so don't know.
I know, so maybe not. By the third line, we're a little more interesting. I mean, they're short lines, guys.
So are you rereading it?
I'm going to do it. I'm going to get this happening. You can cut it and paste it and do what you need from editing, right? Because you said
all right. So you're going to do the second and third. Okay.
So I'm counting on you.
I should have expected this from a New Yorker.
Hey, Colin, long time no speak. How are you? Psych, I don't really care. There we are.
Okay. Tati.
Oh my God, now I feel like KJ, because I feel like my first line doesn't really tell you a damn thing.
Okay, but, you know what? You read 3 lines, correct, KJ? I will give you 3 lines. You have up to 3 lines.
Let me just do, if the first one is a quote, and then the second one really gives you the gist of the story.
Okay, go for
it. Dear sweet baby Jesus, the middle-aged receptionist with her short, natural, gray nearing the temples, looked me up and down over her wire-rimmed glasses, her eyes eventually landing on the massive brown stain on my shirt.
Okay, I'm glad that I allowed you to continue with that, because that was visually stimulating. That whole, I'm curious to know what that stain is. The brown stain is. Brown stains don't always sound like they're going to, I hope it's chocolate. I hope so. Ooh. So Camille, you have the choice of reading one line or the first 3 lines.
I think I'll stick with the first one.
Oh, okay. Okay, go for it.
Everyone knows that when you throw a dinner party for a bunch of lesbians, at least half of them will be vegan.
That's just so good. Take a master writing first line class with you, please. Let me know when that's available in my area.
We can do a trade if you teach me pole dancing.
There we go. Absolutely, 100%.
So let's talk tropes. Which tropes do you use to tell the love story between your main characters? Tati, what tropes do you use?
Because this is a workplace romance, there's definitely forced proximity. Like they can't stay away from each other. They have to work on this project. And then particularly on Porter's part, I think there's a little bit of like insta love, even though they're in their 40s. There is a little bit of insta love going on. So definitely forced proximity and some insta love.
Regarding insta love, being they are older characters, at that point, you've lived enough life to be like, listen, I know exactly what I want. I know if this person has it or doesn't. So I would buy into, I know a lot of people have issues with buying into insta love, but at an older, more mature, experienced age, I think that makes sense. I think it should only be, I think once you get to a certain age, it should only be just insta love. We just like, honestly. Well, anyway, let's see. Tropes. Camille, tell us about tropes. And if, you created some tropes, let us know about them.
Well, the main trope of my book is definitely enemies to lovers. They start out hating each other. It's also a workplace romance, though, so there's definitely some forced proximity. I think those are the 2 main tropes, definitely.
Katie.
I think that probably the main trope is chaotic, / buttoned up, because one character, Tegan, is a very, and he is anxious and he is starchy, and he is from New York, where he used to be a municipal bond trader and is now running a charitable foundation. And then Darcy is a chaos gremlin, who is out in the woods wearing cutoffs and muddy hiking boots and communing with the wolves, and living off of peanut butter and Oreos. And then definitely later in the book, we do get into some hurt comfort, which I like a lot of hurt comfort, just to feel something, on a sad day.
Chaotic versus buttoned up. And you said that one of the characters is a chaos gremlin?
That is Darcy. She is she was in the Navy. She swears a lot. She lives off of peanut butter and Oreos. She doesn't have a lot of respect for rules and norms that do not protect her animal friends. So
I know that out of everything you've said, I don't know why I'm latching onto this, but is the character dipping the Oreos into the peanut butter?
I think she's probably eating the peanut butter like with her fingers if nobody's watching her. Like,
my goodness. And by the way, just for your information, they sell this in Ohio where I live. I don't know if it's anywhere else. They have Oreos with peanut butter cream inside.
They have those down south too, and they are delicious. They are actually my favorite type of Oreo.
There's
some
good
Oreos that are no good. There was the mint Oreo, I feel like, those are
good.
It should be
those
good, but no.
They are good.
The mint is artificial.
That's the best Oreo, by far, the mint one.
Yes, but you have to get the thin ones. The thin Oreos with the mint is better than the regular Oreos with the thick mint cream.
I'm meaning to leave this podcast. I may be leaving.
Well, now you're going to be last. On the next round, you will be last. So just so you know. KJ, what's your tropes?
I'm sorry, I'm just so thrown by this whole Oreo conversation that I'm having a really tough time focusing right now. Let's see. My tropes include enemies to friends to lovers, which I don't know if that's a thing, but that's what I'm calling it.
Yeah.
Unrequited high school crush. That's got to be a trope, right? Opposites attract. And baklava. I'm going to say baklava as a trope. Baklava. We're talking about desserts, and I feel like I need to contribute to this conversation. And so
Okay.
baklava.
The baklava trope, meaning that baklava plays a role in the romance. So it plays a role in in the book proposal. And hopefully if more people do that, it'll become this trope. Like, oh, it's the baklava trope.
Obviously, yes.
Okay. I don't know.
And in my personal life, because while everyone brings Oreos, I'm just like it's a potluck, and I just brought the baklava. You're welcome.
Let's talk heat levels. Sweet, sexy, steamy, safe word. Where does your novel fit?
Right. So I'm definitely like sexy with like hints of steamy, but only in her writing.
So we're talking high sexy, low steam. High sexy.
Yeah, it's like a B minus.
Okay, so dipping your toe into steam. A steam bath, if you will, just getting it started. A steam bath.
That's fair.
Camille, steam level.
I'm gonna have to go with steamy. There's only one scene, but it gets pretty specific. My editor kept leaving comments like, what does this look like? What does that sound like? And it just got more and more explicit every time.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So in a way, your editor kind of teased out of you a much steamier scene than planned.
Yeah, it was a little steamy to start, I'm not gonna lie, but it has a lot of detail now.
Oh, okay.
You can visualize.
So steamy. Okay. Katie.
I think I'm at steamy as well. That, I mean, it is, nothing happens that, you know, adults have not heard of before, which sometimes I read books that are at the safe word level and I was like, and I'm just surprised. So, but I think that it's at the open door, everybody knows where everything is and it's described in some detail. I sold this book on spec and I asked my editor, who is well known as a chaos gremlin, what do you want to see in this book? And she was like, sex, give me sex. And I was like, okay, Cindy, I'll write you sex. So, you know, I hope I delivered.
Wow. Okay. You said chaos gremlin again. That's a thing now. I'm probably going to say it all week. Thanks to you, Katie.
I hope you do. I hope you tell your friends if they are chaos gremlins that that's what they are and that you love them for it.
Tati, we have older characters, so I hope they do things, big things.
Oh, they absolutely do things, a lot of things. I would probably say it's steamy. I had this conversation with somebody because I was like, there's only like 2.5 sex scenes. For me, they're not, to me, as a person who did, like I said, sex blogs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're not that steamy, in my opinion.
Okay.
But let everybody else tell it. My ears are burning. But
okay.
So I would say, I guess it's steamy, between sexy and steamy.
Between sexy and steamy. Okay. So for someone who reads a lot of explicit sex and romance, they might say, oh, they're not super steamy. But someone who's not used to reading steam would be like, oh, wow, this is, you know. Now you said 2.5. So is the half because they were interrupted?
You have to read the book, but yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So if you could share any type of research that you did for your debut, and if there was anything of interest that you learned that you may or may not have added to the, you know, to your novel.
Because my book is about architects and I have absolutely no design background whatsoever, I had to do a lot of research about architects, particularly you know, what's it like to be a Black female architect in a space where there are not a lot of women, there are not a lot of minorities. And so one of my girlfriends from high school is actually an architect, who actually attended the university that I mentioned in the book. And so I got a lot of information about what it's like to just be an architect, what kind of terms do you use and things like that. And I also just did general research about architectural firms and stuff. At first, the book was going to be about a construction firm. And they were still going to build a stadium, but I changed my mind. I said, architects sound more glamorous. I don't know. And so
it does. Yeah.
So I asked my girlfriend about it, and I was like, tell me all about it. And it was really cool to learn about these things. And I learned that the largest African American owned and led architectural firm is actually here in my hometown in Atlanta. So I didn't even know that when I was researching the book. So that was really cool to learn. But there's still a lot of, not a lot of respect women get in the field. So that was really, really interesting to learn.
Could you meet with them and just like chat with them and like tour? I feel like you need to reach out to them. Like,
I thought about going up there and be like, "Hi, I wrote this book about like there's some sex in it, but would you like me? Can I come up and
why not?
See what you're doing?" That would be really cool. But if I had an in, then maybe I'll ask my girlfriend if she knows anybody at that particular firm.
Yeah, I mean, architects have sex, I'd imagine.
I would hope so.
So I didn't really do too much research specifically for this book. I will say I wrote this manuscript when I was in my final semester of grad school. And I had done this very bizarre thing where I had written one manuscript per semester in this like insane thing of like, I'm going to get an agent. I want to get published. I'm old and I need to do this now. Right. Okay. So, so this was my fourth book and it was my first comedy. And over the course of the 4 semesters in grad school, I had done an insane amount of research about the publishing industry, because when you go back for an MFA, you learn about the craft and you learn how to workshop and you learn all of these very like specifically artsy things, but you don't really learn about the business side of things. And so I did a ton of research over the course of the 2 years about the business side. I just didn't think I would use it or need to use it in a book, but alas, this happened. And so this is a book about the publishing industry. And so all of that research came very much in handy. When I was writing the actual manuscript, all of that had already been done, so I didn't really count it. But I did have to go back to a variety of different New York City neighborhoods where I had lived in the past to like see what was still there and what had changed. So because I have very specific New York references in this book. That was some research that I had to do.
Camille, research. Tell me about the research if you did do any.
I did do some. Most of the research I did was to get the backgrounds of the characters done and to make sure I was doing their identities authentically. I also researched one of the characters is a queer photographer who was most active around the Stonewall riot. So I did a lot of research to get her character right. I did some research into how a magazine is run, and then I willfully ignored a lot of it to make it easier for my plot. So I'm hoping anyone who works in a magazine will have some generosity with me when they read those parts.
So Katie, what kind of research did you do?
I guess the most research that I did for this book is for one of our protagonists. Darcy has been trying to become a park ranger for 3 years and failing at it, but she cares a lot about conservation ecology. So I read up on the reintroduction of the wolves to Yellowstone and how many grizzly bears are there in Montana actually? What are your odds of encountering one if you are walking in the woods? And what is it plausible that you are going to have a encounter with a grizzly bear and you are going to come away with it with just a few scratches, a little flesh wound. So I learned a lot about bears.
I appreciate that you looked up the odds, because when I have book club discussions, a lot of times it's like, well, what were the odds that was going to happen? And we're like, oh, well, the author just, but I like that there was some, thoughtfulness behind that. It's like, well, let's see, what are the odds really? Because if you come from like way out of left field, sometimes you lose readers right away. They're like, this is ridiculous. This is insane. So thank you for researching that. Who did you dedicate your debut romance novel to, and why, if you're inclined to share?
I dedicated my book for my Chris, the best Chris of Chris's.
So does this mean you have a lot of Chris's in your life?
Well, we all know a lot of Chris's. You go to the movies, you're going to see a Chris, but I have the best Chris.
Okay. And why did you dedicate the book to that Chris?
Well, it's my first, it's a love story. And so I had to dedicate it to my Chris because that's my love story.
Oh, that's very sweet. Camille.
Just As You Are is dedicated to everyone who's doubted if there's a happy ending out there for them. And I did that because I wrote this book for people who haven't seen themselves in rom-coms and who might not believe that people like them get rom-coms. And it was important for me to show that in this book.
Beautiful. I love it.
I dedicated my debut to my mother. She's no longer with us. And so I said to Mama, a piece of you will always be between the lines. She was the first person who took me to a library. She was the first person who introduced me to books. She was, I know if she was alive today, would be peddling the book in her purse and going, hey, my baby has a book, so go and buy it. It's here. And so a lot of particularly the mother characters in this book are kind of an amalgamation of my mom and my aunts and a lot of women in my life. And so if you find a character that's a little sassy, a little like flip at the mouth, that's definitely my mom.
I love it. I love it.
So I dedicated my book to the dancing man who gave me core 4. That's what it says. And the dancing man is, of course, my husband, whose name is also Chris, Katie. So it's not your Chris, but it's my good Chris.
Ooh.
And the story of calling him the dancing man came from when I was extremely pregnant. We were going to an obstetrician appointment for my first. And I had just a terrible day. And he met me in the parking lot. He's in his car, I'm in mine. And he knew I had a terrible day because we were on the phone. He gets out of the car and just starts dancing in the parking lot, like by himself, like a fool. And I was like, oh my God. But I started laughing so hard that I began to cry, like happy, funny tears. And I was like, that's the kind of laughter that I want to bring with this story. And he gave me everything. So of course I would dedicate my book to him.
That's a great story. I have created 5 original romance novel titles. You tell me what the story is about. So each of you, I'm going to ask you to pick a number from 1 to 4. And then the 5th one, it's going to be you buzz in. So whoever buzzes in first gets to do the last one, number 5. I'm going to go with Tati. Okay, if you could pick a number between 1 and 4.
I'll split the difference and do 3.
Okay. Number 3. This is the title. Please tell me what this romance novel is about. Love at First Fight.
Oh, that's easy.
Oh, okay.
This story is about a washed up MMA fighter who is trying to get back into the ring, and he needs to get back in shape. And so he seeks out a personal trainer to get him back in shape. And he goes to his local gym and he sees a girl who's super athletic and she's really like on it. And he's like, hey, I want you to train me. And she's like, you MMA fighter want me to train you? He's like, I'll pay you a lot of money. And she needs a lot of money because she's broke and she's in debt and she wants to start her own gym. Pada, there you go.
That was so good.
That was really good. And I like that you even threw in some sample dialogue. Like,
I would read that.
I like that she's like, hey, you're ex-MMA. And he's like, yeah, train me. She's like, okay. And I figured someone would say enemies to lovers because there's fight. But you took the fight in another way. So fighting is his livelihood. So
I like puns.
Yes. Yeah, that was
fun. I like puns.
You're very punny. Thank you for that. Okay, so that was number 3. So number 3 is done. Okay, so we only have 1, 2, and 4. Camille, which number would you like?
I would like number 4.
Okay, now this is fitting because you're currently living in New York. The title is Big Apple of My Eye.
It is obviously about an apple festival that takes place just outside of the city, and there is a baker from a small town who is competing to bake the best apple pie, and a baker from the big city who runs a fancy bakery who wins the competition every year. And it is enemies to lovers, because I love enemies to lovers.
Yes, enemies to lovers.
Hallmarked by that.
A lot of fall imagery. They wear matching sweaters at one point. It's adorable.
What I love is so far nobody has gone in the direction I expected them to go. So I feel as if this is really I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Apple, yes, definitely Hallmark. Yeah, the Apple thing. Got it. Okay. I mean, all right. Okay, so now what we have left is 1 and 2.
I'll take number 1.
Okay, number 1. The title is Romantically Interested.
It's really hard. Okay.
I know. That one I was even thinking, I was like, whoever picks that, that's tough.
That's a story about a banker, and he is selling savings accounts and bonds and CDs and such. And he meets a girl who is also broke and has never put her money anywhere other than under her mattress. And he teaches her all about checking and savings accounts. And it's terrible, and no one's ever going to buy it. And I am so happy that I played this game. Thank you.
So did you get interested from interest, meaning interest rates? But see, now I think that's pretty clever. That's an interesting interpretation.
The page out of Tati's book. She said puns. So I was like, okay, romantically interested is like the most vague title. If my editor would give me that title, I would open and cry for a month. So I'm just saying, that's a hard title.
Well, I think if you workshop that a little, work with your editor, I think you could really have something great there. So this is not enemies to lovers or anything. It's like,
it's like nothing to nothing. It's like banking. It's so
nothing to nothing.
I feel like that has Grump Sunshine written all over it.
Oh, good one. Yes. Grumpy Sunshine and opposites attract. Yeah. So that leaves number 2 for Katie. Katie, this one, okay. This is called Orion's Belt Undone.
Oh my God.
Well, obviously this is about rival astronomers who are competing for some sort of NASA grant. And so they are out there under the stars, bumping shoulders every night, wrestling for the telescope until suddenly sparks fly and they're having romantic escapades under the beautiful night sky, underneath the shadow of some giant phallic telescope.
That was so good.
You should have picked number 2, KJ. So I'm thinking with this Orion's Belt Undone, the way you mentioned, they're romantic, under the stars. So how sexy would it be? Where would it be? Would it be sexy, steamy? Would it be safe word? How far would you go?
Now that you've said that, I'm like, well, maybe this is the one where I actually do the research and I go read Tati's blog and I have them doing something with knots and things, they're outside and you're getting in the, you're checking the voyeurism and some sort of rope play, boxes as they're, falling in love under the stars.
That works. So I was going to have everyone buzz in for the 5th one, but being KJ had some issues with romantically inclined, I'm going to give you the second chance. And it is number 5. Okay. It's called Head Over Feels. Instead of Head Over Heels, Head Over Feels.
So you want me to take a stab?
That is all yours. I'm giving you a second chance.
Okay. That's rival gymnasts. Rival gymnasts who are in the Olympics. And they're on the same Olympic team, and they're jumping a lot, and then they jump into each other, and that's their meet cute on a trapeze balance beam jumpy thing, trampoline they call that.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, that came a little easier to you than the banker story.
I think it did, but still not good. I don't
Okay.
know.
Hey,
You wasted your titles.
I see this one. I see the commercial potential.
Thank you.
that's very kind of you, Camille.
It is kind.
No, I mean,
love gymnastics.
gymnastics, I mean, I like what I mean, even when you said the banker, like it's an interesting interpretation. You just need to workshop it. Not, I mean, your process, you need to sit with it, probably marinate, do a lot of envisioning.
I don't know how everybody else played this game. I really don't know. I feel like maybe all of you were in on something and like didn't invite me to the pre-game.
No.
Cool. It's
No,
cool, guys.
nobody. I didn't even know we were doing this until like 2 nights ago. I came up with it. So, well, I just want to let you know that any ideas you came up with that I was able to help inspire, feel free to use. Just thank me in your acknowledgments. It's all yours. KJ, you don't have to thank me if you use any of those ideas. It's okay.
It's gonna be really
My
awkward.
career will be over. No one will read it anyway, so it's fine. It will never make it onto an acknowledgments page.
You never
It's
know.
gonna be really awkward when I go and write your book, KJ.
Do it.
Romantically interested. I'm gonna steal it.
I think you should do it, Camille. Well, someone might watch this and be like, you know what? I think
She's on to something. That KJ MICCICHE, man, she's got it.
I hope everyone had fun playing This Title Needs a Story. Tell us where we could find you online or in person.
My website is kjmichiche.net. My Instagram and Twitter are both at kjmichiche. And in the summer, you can find me in Cape Cod, and the rest of the year, you can find me on Long Island.
You can find me on Instagram at Katie Shepard Books. My website is katieshepard.com. You can find me in Montana a couple months out of the year, usually August and December, but bring your bear spray. I'll be out in the woods. Rest of the time, I'm in Texas.
I like that now everyone's mentioning where their physical location for part of the year. This is a new twist to this question.
My website is TatianaRichardson.com because Tatiana is my full name, TatianaRichardson.com. I'm literally everywhere on social media, Instagram, Facebook, the TikToks with the young people.
Mm-hmm.
I am everywhere at the same name. Richard Writes On. It's a play on my name. Richard, Writeson. So like Richard Wright, the author. I thought I was being clever.
That is
And
clever.
you can find Romance in Color podcast pretty much everywhere that you get your podcast, and that's Romance in Color with a U. And we are on Instagram at Romance in Color, and we are on Twitter at Romance in the letter N and Color with a U. And you can find me on the east side of Atlanta, just chilling.
You can find me at CAMILLEKELLOGG.com or at Kellogg_Camille on social media. And you can also find me in Brooklyn year round.
I feel like I should tell people where to find me too, but I'm not. Thank you, Camille, KJ, Tati, and Katie for joining me here on First Date. I wish all of you continued success and happy writing.
Bye. Thank you for having us on.
Bye.